Randi Green here, or Randi Green if you prefer in the English pronunciation. Hi there. Starting from scratch. And how do I do that? Some of you might know or might not know, I've been working with this since 2007, and I've been working very deep into different realities behind this physical reality. And I have got good friends around me who are trying to catch up and understand what all of this is about, and most have great difficulties in working with this. And it's no big surprise, because most of the information to truly get the realities behind the physical one, that the third dimension or third density to be more correct, because the dimension is actually just the energy band, whereas the result when it's worked on becomes a density, is highly technical, very advanced, and demands kind of a lot of the brain to truly interpret. So it's like explaining quantum sciences for third graders, and this is not me talking down to you or anything. That's just how it is. And when I began this work many years ago, the first thing I got of inner information from myself was that my brain needed to be developed to handle the true level of information. So I spent quite a lot of years working with developing my brain to be able to process high level information. And that meant that I went through a lot of very high science within the third dimension from scientists, working my way through it, even though I didn't have the mathematical capacity. I have the capacity to see images, and when I read a paper, even though it was highly quantum science or whatever, from a scientist who used to work with this, because quantum science is actually more or less in mathematical equations. Whenever that person were working with these mathematical equations, he or she would look in and see images in their head, and these I could see by reading their papers. So that was kind of a double way to work with information. So that was how I began with the whole journey of this kind of thing, the understanding that there is this third dimension, which you and I are part of, and then there are realities beyond it. And the understanding of the realities beyond it is where things go wrong, because there is a lot of information out there, and beginning to work with the inner realities and the information regarding the inner realities are quite complicated, let's just put it that way. So how did I know where to work to the level I have got today? And I would say I had an inner compass of what was, for me, correct and what was not correct in whatever I began working with. And I have worked my way from sciences into religion, into spirituality, into philosophy, and into most psychology as well. So I've been working on many different levels of the third dimensional information and trying to sense the energy behind. And I think a good place to begin when we talk about doing this work is the understanding of sensing energy behind the physical form, or sensing energy behind the information you are diving into. And do you do that already? Yes, you actually are, because you have this when you meet people and you kind of feel, there's something energy about that person. Sometimes you like it or not, you don't really know what it is, and you call it's chemistry, or you just know this person's is good or bad or whatever, and all of these kind of things correspond to your emotional setup, which is the first level of energy you have actually got behind this physical form. And I know I'm really talking on a very level, but this is the preliminaries. That's the best way you can get it, what I'm talking about. Because if I jump right into talking about alien races and who's here and who's operating here and how they're working here and how they're working from the energetic levels of this reality, you will be a little bit overwhelmed. So let's just put it in, it's kind of the quantum sciences. The quantum science are actually the energy level behind the molecular level. But that is just an intermediary field between, you got the third dimension, or density, but actually we're talking energy here. If it's molecular, then it's the third density. But if the energy itself, the atom level, then it's the third dimension. And then behind it, you got the quantum level, which is the level where consciousness and energy begins to merge with each other. And from that, you go into the fourth dimension. And from that, the fourth density arises with the type of consciousness that is developed and can be developed in using the fourth dimensional energies. And that is right behind our physical reality. So that is when you get with the physical level of reality, the construction of realities that goes with molecular. And molecular both goes with physical items as well as go with organic items. So that's the difference. The difference is a table is a physical, and an animal or a plant or a human or an insect is an organic representation of the third dimensional energy. So these life forms exist within the third density that is composed of atomic energy that expresses itself as molecular, that's organic, or as physical, that are kind of items, cars and stuff. Okay, so that's the two-way third dimensional energy can express itself. In our current reality, the third density, the energies that are being used there are predominantly what is called electromagnetic, and that goes with the same type of energy you got in your brain wave structure, in your heart, as well as in your cells. The membrane of your cells holds slight voltage. So everything in the third dimension or the third density is composed of electromagnetic energy. And that means that what is predominantly being used here is not the ability to control things with your mind or consciousness, which is a higher dimensional feature, but actually just using your brain and your physical body within some very restricted frequency bands of what is possible and what is not possible. And because they are frequencies, and you know that frequencies or electromagnetic energy can actually run devices, it can fuel up a television, it can fuel up a car, it can fuel up a radio. That means electric devices composed of machines. And that goes with the construction of parts of our reality that is already in the third dimension. If you can hear a little bit of, that's my dog, she just woke up and doing all these kind of things. Our reality, which you are part of here, is highly run by machines. And just look around you in your home, how many electric devices you're actually using to make your day work. And you are now getting into an era where most of your electric devices are still run on electricity, but they are not wired up anymore. There are no cords. They are going on Wi-Fi, or kind of have learned to store energy in them, which were kind of a problem in the beginning when the electromagnetism were being used in vessels or in cars or in what you call it, stationary items. They had to be plugged in all the time, but this is changing. So electromagnetic energy is now being able to be stored. And that is because the whole reality you're part of is shifting. And that is an orchestrated shift. And this is why I kind of say, okay, from who? From the aliens. And that is why I say, yes, sweetie, yes, from the aliens. And this is where it's going to be interesting. So, how did all of this begin? Da, 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 da. Oh, sorry, I'm just joking a little bit. there are a lot of history going on here, and many of you probably already scouted the internet and got a lot of information about the aliens and who the aliens are, the reptilians or the mantids or the Arcturians or the Pleiadians, and all of these names that are for the different races that have been here or are still here or are part of whatever is going on here. Let me give you a little example. If you just take the Japanese car called Sapporo. Sapporo means Pleiadian. And the reason why the guy who invented this, not that he was aware of it, but some of the technology in his car actually come from the Pleiadian system. And this is why you're kind of saying, that's interesting. Yeah, you have to look at the logos of the companies that are out there. Not that they are fully aware of it, but this is where things get a little bit intriguing. This reality, you have been kind of, when we talk about the whole awakening of humanity, the awakening begins with truly understand the third density, what it actually is. And the high level of machines you've got in your everyday life is equally heavily part of the fourth density. Actually, most of the high-level technology that we are beginning to get integrated into the third dimension, the third density, comes from the fourth. And in that, there are some races there that do not really see the human evolution in the same set of glasses, as we said in Denmark, in the same perspective as we do. They don't really have our interest in mind, but a lot of things are going on. And there has been a lot of old stuff going on, and then there's the current issues, and then there are the future issues that will come our way. So my kind of thing in this is, where do I begin explaining this? And what's the most important level for you to know? Because I don't want to go into all the history. Besides, history is difficult because history depends on what timeline you're looking at. So that means the history of this planet all depends on what timeline you're looking at, when you're looking at it, and from what perspective. So there is the kind of most important part is that where you go into the mammal project, which is for most part this organic form that is here in the third density. And even there it begins getting difficult because the form we have today has very little to do with the original one. And the original vessel of the ape human was part of a project orchestrated by a group of Sirians and Pleiadians in an alliance that didn't go so well. So that's part of some of the projects that have been going on, and that group of Sirians are typically referred to as the Venusians, or some of you might know them from the Baalim material as the Sanat Kumara faction. But that specific one is actually more what we would call the Wisdom Masters, and they are more over to the Arcturian brands who came in later. So you see, this is where things get complicated. Anyways, this perspective you're getting here is mine and my experiences talking to these races. And these races give a lot of contradicting information, and sometimes a lot of trickery. So learning to communicate with the ones that are behind our reality, and to a large degree actually controlling the evolution of it, is to learn to speak a foreign language. And some of them actually speak a really foreign language, but most of them are telepathic, so they use the words you have got in your brain and the capacity you have got in your brain. And the lower level information you have got, the lower level type of energy your brain structure runs on, the lower level type of information they will give you, because they can't give you information which your brain cannot process. So that is why I've spent so many years of studying so many things to develop my brain structure, to work with a lot of energy and to fire high level types of energies. And this is not enough doing it in meditation. And when I talk about high enough type of energy, I'm actually not talking about frequencies, but I'm talking about dimensional energies. And that has to be done in energy work. And this is where things get, again, a little bit complicated, because what type of energy work are you supposed to engage in? And there has been given a lot of good instructions over the time about how to do energy work, working with your chakra system. And it has been developed from 7 and into 12, and working with your strands and working with a lot of things. And again, you can hear my dog in the background. She's a little ruby-colored Prince Charles Spaniel. So that's what she is. So for those of you who are curious, that's what she is. And she's just, as whenever she wakes up, she makes a lot of noise. So, and she's rolling around the floor. Okay. And distracting me. So, where was I? I'm so sorry about that. That's because I know you will hear this noise, and I know some of you will think, why is that noise there, and what's that about, and why doesn't she edit it out? Because I can't edit it out. So we will do another thing. I will try to call my dog over here, and we'll let her come in. Penny, come here. Come here. Come. Yeah, good dog. Come on, you're going to say hi. This is Penny. And she will probably be part of my videos as usual. And she's cute, and she's noisy, and she makes a lot of here I am, and you will hear her in the videos. Okay? So, that's her. now you've seen Penny. So, and many of you will say, oh, she's so cute. And yes, she is. She's really cute. She's a really cute dog. Okay. Where was I? That's the whole problem with having a little animal around here. Yeah, now I totally lost it. So I think that the best way to go about it is that I stop this video here. And then I will listen to where I came to, and then I will go back in a new video. And I will continue where I actually took off, because I was in the middle of something very important, and that little thing here just distracted me totally. So see you in a while.